You're listening to the Dad Whisperer Podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the place where you, as a dad, will gain more tools for your fathering toolbox, and where moms and daughters are also invited to listen into the conversation. Now, here is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Happy Father's Day, Dad. I'm so excited to join you today, me and you celebrating what I call the Super Bowl of the year for fathers, right? The day where you're celebrated as a dad, flaws and all, but we're here at the Dad Whisperer Podcast to celebrate you. And it's my joy and honor to have you joining me. Well, you know the grid I use every week, which is simply on your mark, get set, go. So Dad, imagine that you're right here with me, running with other dads, your fathering race this week. I'm on the sidelines as your coach, cheering you on and saying, on your mark, get set, go. On your mark, every week is the topic or the theme. Get set, going to fill that in with stories, with stats, with practical information. And then go is always your practical action steps so that you can put your love for your daughters and even your sons into action this week. Well, if that lines up with your goal, your vision, your desire, then you've come to the right place. So it's a joy now, 10 years, I can't believe it, that we've been gathering together, whether it's me and you, whether it's you, me, and guests, and we're talking about all things girl dad. And so if that lines up again with your desire to be a dialed in dad, then this is the place. It's my heart to come to you. I got an email just yesterday from a dad who said, years ago, a friend of mine turned me onto your podcast, and now my daughter's 13, and you've helped me. Basically, there were some highs and lows and buffaloes. We call that kind of the unexpecteds. And it was just such a meaningful email to get, because sometimes when I'm doing this, I don't always know the impact that the things I share here or the guests share, where I don't know where they land, or I don't know the impact or the difference they make in your relationship. So write me at Dr. Michelle I always forget my email that way, Dr. Michelle at thedadwhisperer.com. And you can tell me stories, because they are what fuel me. Tell me things you'd like me to cover, and we'll do this together for another decade. What do you say? Well, today I have titled this, on your mark, Dr. Michelle's Frontline Fathering Report. So to celebrate Father's Day, I'm going to use the acrostic FATHER. You know me by now. I love my acrostics. And that is always an anchor for me, kind of a template, a grid to hang things on. And so that I want to encourage you today, and we're going to sit here, celebrate together at Father's Day, especially. This is a celebratory week for you. And I'm just going to tell you what's been on my heart, where I've been having conversations with men the past few months, pretty much in this year. I would say the last 6 months, been at conferences. A couple months ago, I spoke at a men's conference in Sacramento. Before that, I was at a conference where I spoke in Texas. And those one-on-one times on this side of COVID are what fuel me as well. In addition to coaching and counseling clients that I have, well, I have more stories than I know we have time to get to. But in this time together, I want to encourage you and give you some stories, things I've been hearing from other dads, and really some things that are on my heart. How's that sound? Should we get going? Okay, here we go. On your mark, Dr. Michelle's Frontline Fathering Report. Okay, one of the things that's been really, really, really big on my heart for F is the idea of forgiveness. So the reality is that we all are in need of forgiveness, because we hurt in the context of relationship and we heal in the context of a relationship, right? So it means we're going to be the hurter and the one who gets hurt. And we know that old adage, hurt people, hurt people. So we all have father wounds, mother wounds, people wounds, church wounds. We all have wounds. And so at the end of the day, how do we get free? Forgiveness. You know, I'm not going to lie. It's been a rough, probably 2 years with my family, 2-3 years, with lots of dynamics changing. And though I've healed at different layers of my journey through the years, I'm at a new round, which is kind of what it means to forgive. 70 times 7. I think the reason Jesus said that is because there's always new things that need to be forgiven. It's not a one and done, even with the same people. And so I'm in a season where every single morning, I remember the people and I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but people that have hurt me in my family, including my dad, love him, but there you go. That's the reality. And I send all of my pain to the cross. I forgive anew on that day so that my heart stays soft. And then what I do is I reverse the curse, if you will. I love that because it rhymes. But sometimes the hurts that we've had could feel like a curse. And so that reversing of the curse is I'm going to bless. And I pray Numbers 6:24-26 every day. And that's how I'm living out a season of forgiveness in my life. And I pray, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and always give you his peace. So that's one of my go-tos every single day. Like I said, so that my heart doesn't get crunchy and so that I stay soft. Now, when I think about the conversations that I've been having with men, some of them recent, like I just said, I was at a fathering conference a couple months ago where I was talking on dads and daughters. And then when the leader said, hey, I know you were here 7 years ago. The guys are asking, when's that lady going to come back? Is that he said, but I hear that you're doing a lot on father wounds these days, healing father wounds. Would you be willing to talk on that? And I'm like, absolutely. And I didn't expect as many men to stay for that workshop like they did the first one on dads and daughters. But I'd say probably 85% of the men stayed for that one. I told them it was free therapy. And so really, at the end of the day, how do we heal? It involves forgiveness. It's the only way to heal from any wound anywhere. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're a dad that's holding on to hurts, could be even from your daughter. So no, we're not just talking about us as adults with our own father wounds. For me, I've had a lot of grandfather wounds. Even recently, I've done another round of forgiveness. And that grandfather who abused me, he died when I was 8. And what I had a new revelation of is that that imprint on the inside of me is still alive. Pretty big, right? That we can always forgive and extend forgiveness like we've been forgiven by God, right? Which is such a freeing, empowering gift that we've been given to be able to release hurt. Okay, so that's the first one. What I also want to say about this forgiveness journey, I'm going to share with you something that I share with these men. So because I'm a clinician of 30 years, I'm in the trenches professionally, right? Licensed professional counselor with a PhD, is that I do the work, if you will, on getting continuing ed. In fact, just today, my husband, Ken Canfield, and I recorded a webinar on healing father wounds for the American Association of Christian Counselors. We did a 3-hour workshop a little over a year on that topic, a year ago on that topic. It comes up all the time. And what I want to see, this is again, I told you I'm sharing from my heart to yours. What have I been pondering? What am I thinking about? It's that I want to see a generation where this turns around and there aren't more of us in therapy because of father wounds. There aren't more devastating impacts because of father wounds. There aren't more injuries and hurts on the inside or the outside, physically, verbally, emotionally, sexually, on it goes. I want to see healthier dads. I want to see dads who aren't living out of their woundedness and hurting their kids. And so, Dad, I'm in the trenches with you saying, if you want a path, I'm going to give you 2 of them today to see if one of these lands better than another for you. But I have a formal model that I use professionally when I'm training clinicians on how to forgive from a book called Forgiving the Unforgivable. And here's my version that's a little more user-friendly that I shared with the guys a couple months ago, and they loved it, okay? So hopefully you will too. First thing, name it. So if you're either the one who's been injured, it could be by a wife, an ex-wife, a daughter, a son, or your dad or your mom, but I'm talking to you as dads, is making amends with your daughter for any hurts you've caused her will need to include naming it, where you can say to her, honey, I can feel the distance between us. You might have to write it in a text, write it in an email, write it with your pen and send it, write it in a note, put it under her door, or find a way to communicate this to her, but to say, tell me how I hurt you. So naming it, let her tell you and say, I won't get angry or defensive. Name it. Second one is claim it. How did those things that I said or that I didn't do, How have those wounds or the voids, the things I didn't do, hurt you? That's the claim it. Then the third one is blame it. Now that one might feel a little weird, like I don't want to blame anybody. But again, if I go back to biblical truth, Jesus hung on the cross and someone had to carry the blame, the shame for sin. In the Old Testament, the lamb that was slain, that lamb was the one that really built a bridge between us and God to say someone has to carry the shame and the blame, if you will. Different word, it might seem offensive, but it's blame it, because you can't forgive someone that you haven't named. So that's the blame it. The fourth one is, okay, what is it? Drain it. I was thinking of the other model, drain it, which is just let it go, which is another word for forgiveness. I did my doctoral dissertation on forgiveness, and I loved hearing over and over, even in professional research, that forgiveness essentially just means letting it go. I'm not holding revenge. I'm not retaliating. I'm letting this go. So that's why I send my pain to the cross. It has to go somewhere other than with me. So the drain it, and then the last one is reframe it. So that often on the other side of a rupture, we call it, when there's been repair, it's stronger than before. With a bone, right? That happens, breaks, stronger once it heals, won't break in the same place. The same with relationships. We all have ruptures. You just heard Dr. Kurt Thompson on my podcast talk about that. It's one of his wheelhouse specializations, and his Being Known podcast is his last season, 11 episodes, all on that topic if you want to listen. And yet this idea that we're stronger on the other side of repair after a rupture. And the reframe is saying, I'm going to look at who I am on the other side of the repair, which is so redemptive, right? So that's the F for forgiveness. So I call that my version of the forgiveness journey in a way that's a bit more user-friendly than formal or academic or professional. So let me say them again. Name it, claim it, blame it, drain it, reframe it. Okay, how's that? So that's what I've been pondering on as it applies to forgiveness, both personally, professionally, and as dads open up their stories of pain to me, often with tears. I'm so honored that they trust me with the places they've been wounded, and I get to stand with them as they release and forgive their father for the hurt that's been there. And it's really, really beautiful work. And I know that might not seem like a masculine term, but I believe it is. Beauty is not gender specific. And that a beautiful part of a process is to have someone attend to the wound by hearing it and then releasing it with someone else. And I'll get to that in a minute. So there's my forgiveness. That's what I've been chewing on. A, here's where I'm at with that one. What's on my heart is let's do an anger check-in. What I would invite you, Dad, to ask yourself today is, how am I doing with anger? How am I doing with not expressing anger? How am I doing, as you've heard me talk about before, go take a timeout as many minutes as your age. Just like you did when your daughter or son was 3, you gave them a 3-minute timeout. 5-minute timeout for a 5-year-old. So if you're 50, you need a 50-minute timeout so that your midbrain, where you're on fire, it's called the limbic system here, that it can calm down. And that this prefrontal cortex, where you have reasoning and judgment, you think clearly and rationally, you're the best version of yourself. Let's put it that way, because you're connected to your emotion, not run by it. And you're still thinking clearly, right? So when you are in this process of being aware of what's happening in you when you're on fire here, and this goes offline, is you've got to give yourself more time to cool off. You'll never regret responding. Later, when you first calm down, and then you don't say things you regret. Even though in the moment, your whole nervous system is in fight or flight. Probably not freeze. Most men that I've worked with the last 30 years and 16 just specifically with men, I don't hear that one very often, but it can happen. Because I can think of even right now, a gentleman that I coach who has a lot of that from childhood where he feels immobilized. So I'm not saying it can't be your story, but at the end of the day, ask yourself, how am I doing with anger these days? Let this be a reminder, as you've heard me say before, drop your anger. You remember me telling you about a 47-second video 3 years ago that my friend Jim Ramos of Men in the Arena interviewed me on his podcast and said, Michelle, I want to go through all 15 tools in your first book's Fathering Toolbox. And I was like, well, okay, I've never done a 2-hour interview except that day. And what Jim said was, let's go through all these tools. So the one on Drop Your Anger, his team took a 47-second video where all I said was, I met a guy at church. We turned into a meet and greet. He had a 2-year-old daughter. When I told him, Dad, daughter specialty is my wheelhouse, he said, tell me what I need to know in 20 seconds. Go. I said, oh, I'll do you one better. This is the 47-second video. I said, I'll do you one better. I got 3 words. Drop your anger. Saying you will do more to destroy the core of who your daughter is with your anger than anything else. So make a commitment today with your mouth at 2 years old to say, I commit before God to never responding in anger, like a vow, because your anger, like I said just now, destroys the core of who she is, makes her give up and stop trying. It makes her internalize your anger as her not being worthy or valuable or treasured. Your anger will make her shut down and give up and stop trying. And that's all I said is, so make this commitment today. Why did that go viral? 3.4 million views? Sadly, it's because that story is too common of a dad's anger. If you're here today, I believe you're a dad that doesn't want to damage your daughter or your son, right? Anger's probably the number one way that you need to keep yourself in check. Be accountable to another dad or to a counselor, a pastor, a mentor, or whoever it is. But make a renewed commitment today not to respond in anger. Okay, got a deal? There we go. Okay, so that's the A that I've been chewing on. Let's go to the next one. Oh, let me say one more thing. This is in my notes. If you have had what I call a bombed out bridge with your daughter, I would encourage you to take a moment this week, today maybe even, can be kind of your Father's Day gift to her from your heart to your daughter. Even if things are great, why not ask a question? If it's bombed out bridge, ask, tell me how I hurt you when I blew up or I overreacted or I texted when I was on fire in my brain and I just fire hosed you. Yes, that's just come up in the last couple of weeks with another dad I'm coaching. How do you make amends, right? Repair for the rupture. It's on you, Dad, to turn your heart first. Then your daughter will turn to you. It's on you. You're the adult. So this question, tell me how I hurt you when, and listen for the answer without being defensive or angry. If things are going great between you and your daughter, I still think it would be a good time to do an anger check-in. Hey, I'm just, annually, Father's Day, I'm thinking about my role as a dad. I'm just wondering, is there anything we need to talk about that we haven't talked about? Where I've hurt you and don't know I have. I want to keep it clean between us. Why not? Good idea, right? Okay. So F, forgiveness, A, anger check-in. We're going to take a quick break. When I come back, we'll keep this conversation going about what's happening on the front lines of fathering. I'll be right back.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Welcome back to the Dad Whisperer podcast. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. I'm excited that you're here today, especially if you're a dad who wants to add more tools to your fathering toolbox. So the tools today, we're doing this conversation that I'm simply calling Dr. Michelle's Frontline Fathering Report, where I'm letting you know about conversations I've had with dads lately. I'm using the acrostic FATHER. Here on Father's Day week to say, here's where I've been at in conversations with dads at conferences, dads I coach, dads I counsel, and dads that I have everyday conversations with here, there, and everywhere. So forgiveness is the F, A, anger check-in, T, time and talk. Let me tell you what I mean by that. A few things. This is a time to ask yourself, how am I giving quality and quantity time to my daughter? Just ask yourself, have I been too busy lately to notice the little things? Because the little things to us as women are big things. When you notice a tear and you stop and go, what are your tears saying? Or you go, oh my goodness, her room looks like a bomb's gone off. That would tell me she's overly busy or she's not getting out of bed. And you notice kind of a dampened, depressed mood. And you check in and say, you know what? I'm slowing down and I'll be late to whatever it is because you're more important. What kind of quality time and quantity time are you giving her? If you haven't initiated a dad-daughter date lately, do it now. That's why I wrote Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters, so you could let your daughter pick a theme for that day. It could be self-esteem. It could be how to be a world changer. It could be how to close the dream gap. It could be on the lamenting. Maybe it's a friendship that went sideways, or maybe something with you that has shut her down or discouraged her. But usually for girls, when our relationships aren't going well, we're not doing well. So if you just take time to notice what's going on with your daughter, I'm going to go out on a limb. There's always something going on. There's always something with us as women that are going on. You know, you've maybe heard some people that do marriage work that, I've been to these where you are howling when the presenter says, men have a nothing box. What are you thinking about, dad, or to a husband? And he's like, nothing. And we're like, no, you're just not telling me something. And men are like, nope, pretty sure there's nothing going on up there. And as women, we're thinking, I wish I had a nothing box where I wasn't thinking about anything. And so, dad, to just know your daughter's always thinking something. She's always feeling something. She's always pondering something. So if you take the time to check in, I always think of what one of my friends, my best friend's daughter, Claire, when she was in high school, she said, my dad would get done at the end of the day and open the door and go, hi, hon. Hey, what you doing? What you working on? And she would report on what I'm doing, homework or this. And she said, I wish my dad sometimes would just ask me, how are you feeling? Because we would have a different conversation. I said, why don't you tell him? So she did. And dad had the exact words that his daughter asked for because she wanted to open up with him. But when he led with a thinking question, a concrete data question, she didn't feel the freedom to open up emotionally until he asked that question. Might be a way for you to say, that would be kind of a talk more than a time. Am I getting quantity or quality time? But asking yourself, how am I communicating with her? How am I talking with her these days? Another thing I would say on this time and talk thing is, 2 ears, one mouth. How you doing on listening twice as much as you're talking? At this men's conference a couple months ago, it was such a joy for me to spend an entire weekend, a Friday afternoon to a Sunday afternoon, about 48 hours, and to just have a line of dads come up who were open and hungry and teachable and opening up stories. And what I could think of one gentleman where he's standing there going, how do I use this book? And he's talking about an adult daughter. And I said, what if you got another copy and you both read through, Dad, here's what I really need from you, a guide for connecting with your daughter's heart. So you don't have to come up with any of the content, but you get to say, is this what you're going through? It's a little bit different approach than just the questions, because there's in Let's Talk, it's data. And I begin to just encourage him, which will actually be my E in a little bit, but saying, wow, that you're a dad that's doing this and here's what you do. And something about the encouragement with a directive of how to use this and reach his daughter's heart, the tears just begin to pour. And that's what I love about you as men, is you are tender on the underbelly. You want to be a good dad, and you're often holding back hurts. But I think oftentimes the anger, going back to the A, is coming out of unhealed wounds that you have, where you've been gut punched and you don't know what to do with it. So you hold back, hold back, hold back. And that's what I can tell you I've even recently experienced in the last 2 weeks with another dad-daughter, duo, whatever you want to call it, dyad, that this dad has held back. And then when it was sprayed, it all came out in mass. And so I think you're wise, dads, to not just think time and talk with your daughter, but what kind of time and talking are you doing with someone else that allows you to process some of the ways you're impacted as a dad? You got to have battle buddies. And if you don't have one, find a group. Call a counselor and say, what kind of groups do you have? Look online. There's online virtual groups. In fact, I'm going to be starting up the Alba Project in the fall in a virtual group, first time ever. So reach out to me, Dr. Michelle at thedadwhisperer.com, and you can write me, or at drmichellewatson@gmail.com, my before I was married name, and say, I'd like to sign up. So we're going to do, my plan at this point is once a month, but to be able to talk about real things going on with real dads in real time, you need other dads. And that's what the Alba Project is about. It's dads coming alongside other dads to encourage each other. Let me tell you another story. There's a guy named Tom who's given me permission to share his story. And what I love about his story, y'all, is that he said, I've been given a lot of thought to what it means to be a dad to adult daughters, 18, 20, 22. And he's saying it's a whole different deal, I'm realizing. So cool that he had this awareness and put words to the story to me. And he said, in the dog days of diapers, I didn't know what I was doing. So I did my best to learn and appropriately serve in that role. As the early adolescence and teen years came, I did the same, learning how to guide, challenge, and protect. I'm finding that at present, I am equally novice, but doing my best to learn and serve in an appropriate manner. So see, this dad is saying, in order to grow through the different phases of my fathering with daughters who are aging, and you're aging too, right? This dad's aging, but he's like, I need a whole different skill set. So that's where talking with other dads or with a counselor or a mentor or dads who are further along on their fathering journey is, you're not only talking and being heard, like, I don't know what to do in this season with my daughter. And you get to learn from a seasoned expert, which you will be one day. He went on to say, as I look around at some of my peers trying to dance this dance with their daughters, some have quit, others try being friends with their daughters, and others import what they did so well in adolescence and teen years into their kids' adult years, and they double down. He says, I'm not drawn to any of those approaches. I agree. Because you have to have a different skill set. You can't be top down anymore directing your adult children. You have to come alongside saying, what do you think of this? Give her a podcast. I told a dad that this week. You can't take it in and blast it at your daughter or inform your daughter or correct. Why not give her that podcast and say, let's talk about it? Why did I call my book that? Let's talk about it. But I go, you got to listen twice as much as you talk, to say, I want to hear what you think about what you just heard. And then affirm her. That's really good information. I hadn't thought about it that way. Would you be open to my input? A lot of asking permission. He said, my daughters no longer need what they needed from me in the past. What they do need is a father of adults. And I really want to step into that. I'm more in the learning phase than the executing phase, but it feels right. My one constant is I'll always be a father. What changes is how to father and what's my appropriate role to my adult daughters. If I'm honest, it excites me and scares me. Do I hear an amen? Kind of like that first diaper change. I'm whispering something like this to myself later. What got me here isn't going to get me there. Isn't that good? See? Y'all have such wisdom. I love sharing it. Last story I'll tell you under the time and talk is just today. A woman that I mentor in her late 20s had a job change this week. It's been really devastating, really gnarly, really hurtful. And she just said, I've been at my parents' house the last 2 days. They're amazing. She put the best, because I said, I'm so thankful you have mom and dad. So I have heard her. I've never met her dad. But I've heard so many times through this adult daughter what it is meant to have a dad in her corner, a dad that wipes her tears, a dad that's there no matter what, affirming her, even in the job world as a career woman, where things don't always go as planned. And dad's there to maybe pick up the pieces is a little bit inappropriate or not accurate, I should say. It's not that she's completely fallen to pieces, but she's hurting. So at every age of your lifespan, as a dad and as a daughter, and as the relationship, the dad-daughter relationship of your lifespan with your daughter is going to require talking and time. So I'm just reminding you, ask yourself, how am I doing in that area? Am I giving enough time or am I too busy? How am I doing listening twice as much as I talk? And then remember, if you need to be more intentional, want to be more intentional with the last half of this year, get my book, Let's Talk, Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters, and commit to saying every other week or minimum once a month, I'm going to use that book to open up more conversations with my daughter. Watch what happens. Because as our mouth opens as women and we talk, our heart opens. And when our heart is open, your heart as a dad is open. So what do you say? Okay, H. I'm just simply calling this one healing. I've been doing a lot of talking about healing father wounds. I do that professionally where I'm listening a lot to people's hurts. There's another H. But I so believe in the power of healing through forgiveness, as I said at the beginning. But I want to give you another model here, HEAL. Again, I give you this for free therapy, if you want to call it that, free coaching with some things that I share with counseling clients, with coaching clients that help move you toward a healthier, whole life, no matter what your injuries look like. Let me start first before I'm going to give you a HEAL model for healing, whether it's father wounds or whether it's daughter wounds or ex-wife wounds, it's the same model. I want to give you a quote that my husband just shared with me from Donald Joy, Dr. Donald Joy, who's no longer living, from a book he wrote called Unfinished Business. Great title, right? He said, men with a damaged father connection will be healed only to the extent that they can describe the loss and pain. Let me say it again. Men with a damaged father connection will be healed only to the extent that they can describe the loss and pain, which goes back to the name it and the claim it, talking about it. So that leads into my HEAL model, because healing and healing for men is a huge part of my heart desire, my passion, my goal. I believe my purpose. And I wish more men would come and say, Michelle, Dr. Michelle, can you help coach me through this? Because I'm not getting over it and I'm reactive more than proactive. Do the work, men. Do the work to look at your own story. Because like I say, I use 50 as an arbitrary number. Say you're 50 years old. It means every chapter, you're in chapter 50 now, leads up to chapter 50. You never open a book and start at 50 or 25. You start at the beginning because every chapter ties to the whole story. Same with your life. Okay, so H is honestly face the hurt. Be honest about it. So you're not over spiritualizing it or minimizing it or maximizing it or denying it, but you're being honest about it. E, express the pain. I don't mean to be gross, but it's like popping a zit. It's getting out the infection that's in there. So when you're more reactive, you're reacting on a 0 to 10 scale at an 8, 9, or 10. That's your old stuff and it's your stuff. And maybe something like your daughter, you made me get angry. No, that's yours. Own it, take responsibility for it, and then do the work. Because when truth gets into the lies and someone listens, heal within the context of relationship, not hurt, someone is there to witness that pain, which is going to lead to my A, which is allow another to walk with you. And you have someone else to walk with you and bear witness as a safe witness to your pain. It's miraculous what happens. Miraculous. You know, I think in James 5 where it says, confess or share your sin one to another so you may be healed. I believe it's even sharing hurts that have been done to you one to another so you may be healed. So this is really powerful. Honestly, face the hurt, express the pain, which may mean talk it out, run it out, beat a pillow it out, which is one I did back in the day and gave myself, no lie, a black eye because I had a stick. And it was some intense work. I was getting it out. I even have a friend that got a boxing bag in his basement during his work and would just punch. He had to get it out physically. And I imagine that's a lot of you men. You're going to run it out. But all of these things, it's even cry it out. It's even cry it out. You got to if you're blocked emotionally, those tears are down in there. And you need a safe witness to the tears. That's one of the joys I have in the work I do, is where men will trust me with their tears. It's so courageous and vulnerable and brave. A, allow another to walk with you, as I said. And then the last one is let go, which is another word for forgive. I think I told you this before, but I did my doctoral dissertation on the topic of forgiveness. And that was my favorite definition as I looked at all the research for like a year academically and going, I love it. It's just so understandable. Like, what does it mean to forgive? And it's so complex. And yet the beauty of that word is I'm releasing this. I'm not holding on to the resentment, because then we become like the pain. We become the pain. We become like the injurer. So that's such a beautiful, powerful gift we've been given, to be able to say, this goes against my concept of justice, as Dr. Neil Anderson at Steps to Freedom in Christ says. We don't want to let somebody off the hook, but he goes, don't you realize with unforgiveness, you're still hooked to them? So by saying, I'm saying, God, you have to take my pain. You have to be the one to somehow make the wrongs right. And I can't carry this anymore. And you then are released. So H, honestly face the hurt. E, express the pain. A, allow another to walk with you. And L, let go, forgive. Oh my goodness, I have so much more I could tell you, but there you go. There's that one in a nutshell. The last one, R, Father, is remember and reflect. I think there's such power in reflecting and remembering. You maybe know that verse in Lamentations 3, verses, 21 to 23. Yet this I call to mind, which is a remembering. Therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, I'm not consumed. Your compassions never fail. They're new every morning. So see, in that reflection, it's looking at all the mornings that have led up to this morning. And remembering God's faithfulness is a way to not lose hope, by remembering and reflecting. It's such a powerful thing to do, especially if you're in a place of depression and discouragement. Practical way that you can bring back to remembrance something positive with your daughter is go back to when she was 5. Find some pictures, print them off, 8.5 by 11 on your computer. And then on that picture, write out your prayer requests. I pray there be reconciliation. I pray that my daughter would make different decisions. I mean, that's, I think, even in this idea of remembering and reflecting, is remind your daughter. You're helping her remember. Do you remember? Tell her stories. In fact, what was one of them that I just heard this week? It was about a 5-year-old girl. This was in a counseling session, that someone was like, my dad still tells me the story of when I was 5 and I was the one at school that would get up and I had no fear and on the story went. So sometimes you as a dad, you're holding those stories of her character, of her courage that she's forgotten. I think of another, literally, this is just this week, a counseling session with a 16-year-old girl. And I reminded her that earlier this year, as she was sobbing in a session in a real low place, I got to say, do you remember 1 month ago what you told me? No, I don't remember. Like, I don't ever want to dream again. And, the world's, come to an end. And I don't say that to make fun of her. That's part of adolescence. Really, really, really big feelings. And I just was able to say, let me remind you. Let's remember together what happened a month ago. And she said, I forgot that. And that's what you as a dad are sometimes doing with your daughter. Help her remember what she was like when she was 5 or 10, before all the mean girls took over and all the bottom fell out or the divorce happened. You get to help her remember. But you also need to do this for your heart. So if you have a bombed out relationship with your daughter, you've heard me suggest this one before, is get a journal that looks like your daughter, her style on the front, and begin to use it as somewhere to document in your own handwriting memories of the past. I love this thing we did together. I remember this about you. I'm picturing your eyes right now and how they light up when ... You're writing things. You're writing prayers and memories. Draw doodle pictures. They don't have to be perfect, but in your handwriting. And that will help keep your heart alive and open. Because sometimes that part of being alive means it hurts to keep your heart open. And yet by keeping those stories going, it'll keep your hope alive for the time when you can give her that journal. How's that sound? So remember and reflect is a really, really powerful way as a father. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Like I said, I just had this conversation. Is these are present day areas that I've been thinking about, reflecting on, having conversations about. Let me just add a couple more things on the R and we'll close it out. You could even ask yourself, what was a highlight this year? You're at the half year mark. What has been one of the highs? What's one of the highlights with your daughter? Tell her about it. It may be a little thing. It literally, I think sometimes the big things are the little things. Like I said earlier, it may be, when we stopped for ice cream and we actually went to Andy's at midnight because they're open to 1. I keep remembering how fun that was. It's something that was out of the ordinary, unexpected, unplanned. Sometimes those are the really powerful, experiences that we have relationally. So this might be a good mid-year place to say, I'm going to write down 1, 2, or 3 things and tell my daughter that those have stayed with me. That's a way to bond with your daughter's heart. And it kind of goes back to, a talk with her and time. Maybe you want to tell her an accomplishment this year that you saw, that you keep just being proud of her for it. Maybe she broke up with a dude or a dud. I'm so proud of you for walking away, even though that was so hard, or from that friend group or whatever it is. So you're highlighting and helping her remember and reflect. So there you go. We have covered all the things today. Let me go back through my fathering encouragement to you, Frontline Fathering Report. Just as a reminder for a reboot for you to ask yourself how you're doing with forgiveness, anger check-in, time and talking, healing, your own healing, or healing with your daughter. E, I just want to encourage you today. Did I skip that one? I think I did. Sorry. There you go. Got off on my E. I must have gone too fast. But E is for encouragement. I just want to encourage you not to give up. Encourage you to stay the course. Encourage you that your daughter needs you even if she doesn't know it. And don't give up. Stay the course. So there you go. Good thing I went back over this. Let's hear it for keeping it real. Come on. I could redo this, but why? I'm learning to lean into being present, but not perfect. So there you go. I guess I'm modeling it. And then the R is remember and reflect. So Dad, I hope this has encouraged you today as we've had this time together. It's Dr. Michelle's Frontline Fathering Report. So for the go steps throughout all of this, you've had lots of practical ideas. I love doing that rather than saving them all for the end. You can replay this back, share it with your friends. Subscribe on YouTube. I now post there. You can follow me there. You can subscribe. You can share this with your friends. So I trust this has been encouragement to you. Happy Father's Day. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson-Canfield signing off and encouraging you to make today a day where you intentionally and consistently invest in pursuing your daughter's heart. Go Dads.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson-Canfield. We trust you've been encouraged by today's program, where you've been equipped with practical action steps to strengthen your relationships. Dr. Michelle loves hearing from you, so why not write her at drmichelle@thedadwhisperer.com. As always, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give a listen, subscribe, and leave us a review. For free resources or to invite Dr. Michelle to speak at your next event, go to drmichellewatson.com for more information. That's drmichellewatson.com. Thanks for being with us today, and we look forward to you joining us again on the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson-Canfield.